So I'm sat here with Tom Bracher from ITAA, who recently joined as IT Commercial Lead, a new role within the business. Tom, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, James.
Pleasure. So before we dive into things, Tom, it'd be really good if you could just give an overview of ITAA, what you guys are all about, and what the vision is.
Okay. Yeah, look, really interesting company that I'm only just beginning to get to grips with all of the things that we do today. Started off around 3 years ago. Started by 3 partners, all with different skill sets and expertise across the software industry. Combined all of those together to create an organisation that initially was focused around software audit defence, software optimisation, advisory, negotiations, and that's gradually grown over the last couple of years to include additional service lines like software asset management and most recently commercial, so IT commercial, which is why I joined, which was where my role came from.
Fantastic. And how is business at the moment?
Yeah, really good actually. I mean, in terms of the numbers, it doubling every year.
Wow.
And yeah, which is it's aggressive, and now my numbers are need to double next year, which is always like a really good challenge to have. Sort of outside of the numbers, really interesting, really varied client base. We've got some really large, very recognisable brands that we work with across all of the whole sort of suite of services, and then we're working with some smaller companies in completely different ways, which is again really exciting in its own way. So yeah, really interesting times, and it changing all the time.
Great. So we know each other outside of your time here at ITAA. I got to work with you on this and place you into the role, which was really enjoyable. But for the benefit of the audience, could you give us a bit of a brief overview of your background and career to date, what you've been brought in to do here, and ultimately why you decided to join the business?
Yeah, fairly sort of generic, typical procurement journey from buyer through to head of indirects, a large corporate with lots of changes of industries, roles, categories. During all of that, I got to a point where my next sort of logical step would have been a head of role, and at that point sort of reflected as to whether or not it was something that I wanted to do, whether it was somewhere I wanted to go, and took a bit of a pause. I actually had a career break. Went into took some interim roles to give me the space and the bandwidth to try and make the right next step in my career, and that's when you came along, Procurement Heads came along and talked to me about ITAA, and it was one of those opportunities where the more I got into it, the more interested I became, the more kind of engaging the conversation was with you and with ITAA and the owners, and felt it was somewhere where I could take all the skills that I'd learned from a procurement background and apply them in a different way for different customers with a really entrepreneurial background, and have a level of autonomy and flexibility that would really give me the opportunity to add value and impact customers. So it was a really exciting opportunity.
And there's a great opportunity here at ITA for someone to go on the journey with you. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've the commercial vertical within ITA has been has grown month on month, year on year, and that's where and I've come in to really kind of put a shot in the arm of that and increase our our footprint across our existing clients and new clients. And already we've got an opportunity to bring in another person in a commercial role within ITAA. So it would be working for me, but actually working autonomously across a varied group of existing clients, opportunity to find and grow new clients, all largely across the IT procurement landscape.
Drilling down into the individual, what kind of person do you think this would suit?
I think it's going to suit someone that's got a really strong procurement background, that spent a lot of time working with stakeholders at all levels. So used to that boardroom environment, but also used to working intimately with business areas. In terms of sort of the type of person, very much a role that lends itself to somebody that's value driven, creative, independent, wants a high degree of autonomy in their role, because there's a real opportunity to make a difference and so deliver real value into clients. Very much, it's a team environment, but people are absolutely given kind of the space to develop and grow in any areas of interest.
So I guess in terms of the functional competencies that you're looking for, really we need someone with a strong technology procurement background, ideally with good software procurement experience, delivering on those kinds of projects, but also across the whole gamut of technology procurement. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think at our core or foundation is software as an organisation, right? So our partners I mentioned earlier, they've come from an absolute deep expertise in SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, IBM, and so a lot of the work that we've initially got from clients tends to lend itself to a software background. I'm generally quite relaxed about competencies across an indirect procurement landscape, but do feel that I do believe that IT experience, deep IT experience is needed for the role, and largely I guess that's because I take as a given, right, that any good procurement person can run an RFP, a negotiation, a benchmark, and supplier relationship manage. The bit that that I'm looking for, that I look for in myself and therefore in the service that we deliver into our clients is that impact, that value driven approach that gives you really meaningful outcomes to clients.
And we talked a little bit before about the behavioural competencies that this person will need to demonstrate, and that ability to be proactive and not necessarily proactively business develop and win new business initially, or that would be a massive plus, but being able to see and seize opportunities and really own them.
Yeah, it's a nice way of putting it, right? I've looked at the very similar role myself when I was coming into this, right? And one of the things that I had reservations about, from being entirely honest, is that business development consultancy label or badge. That's not my background. But actually, from talking to people, quickly realised that the consultancy element, the business development element, actually largely comes from the intimacy that you have with your stakeholders and the business, and that's where the value that I mentioned before. That's where that comes from. That's where that's how you can deliver it over and above the natural skill set. So, very much suited to somebody that wants to ensure that value is at the heart of everything that they do.
And what's the culture like, Tom?
Really, it's a really broad church at ITAA. We've got a real mixture of people, backgrounds, nationalities. You asked me about culture. I get we're largely UK centric, but have people all across Europe, and then we've got partners dotted around the States, Canada, and Australia. So really diverse, the culture. I guess in terms of sort of behaviourally, really open, really transparent, really accessible. I think you used a nice word earlier around meritocratic, and describes us really well. There's really quick access to any individual within the organisation, and that doesn't just mean that doesn't just mean sort of your colleagues at the same level. It's also the owners, the partners. Very open to challenge, very open to change, and I keep talking about autonomy, but it's because it's true. If there's something that you want to do and change the way you do it, then you can do it in ITA, which I love. So we have structures and processes in place, but they're evolving all the time, right? As the business changes, they change, and it's really exciting to be part of that and to be able to, to drive and make a difference internally.
I guess ultimately for somebody watching this, why would they want to join this above and beyond other opportunities they might be looking at?
Sure. It's a very different proposition to the classic procurement
Definitely.
journey. Still includes a whole host of those elements, right? Still requires those skill sets that have been gained through that. But there's a couple of real sort of differentiators, in my view, and what I've experienced, right? It's the opportunity to get in at a relatively early stage in a really exciting company. As I said earlier, we're doubling every year, and the targets are getting more aggressive and continually being achieved. And for me, joining early and being part of that is really exciting and a bit unique. It's entrepreneurial. The company's entrepreneurial in its nature, and so really lends itself to somebody wanting to get stuck in, involved, and make a difference. I guess alongside those aggressive targets and interesting work also comes opportunity, and there's financial reward for achieving those targets. So we have a really healthy business development incentivization scheme, which for any procurement professional that's ever said, I wish I got 1% of that saving that I've made, it'll certainly resonate as an opportunity to make a change to that.
I guess last question for someone watching this who's going to be working potentially extensively and directly with you. Who are you outside of work? What do you like to get up to?
For someone that's going to be working with me, it might be a different answer, James. But family and friends, so socialising at the weekend, definitely. A combination of spending time with my wife and my two youngish boys tends to take up the majority of my time.
Amazing. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much for your time today.
Yep. Thank you.